Time to say goodbye.
This is Rogers TV. The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers Cable or Rogers TV.
Hi, and welcome to Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. My guest today is the newly elected MPP for Bruce-Grey-Owen Sound, Paul Vickers. And Paul, it's a pleasure to welcome you, I'm going to say back to Politically Speaking, because you've been on the show a couple of times in your previous life as a municipal councillor.
Yeah, thank you, David, for having me, and I'm looking forward to doing this and talking to the people in Bruce-Grey-Owen Sound.
And it's a funny thing. I do hear people say that they really appreciate the conversations because that's what it is. It's a conversation. And I've got questions. You've probably got things you want to say. And hey, has the new worn off yet?
I would say no, not really. I was down to the Queen's Park last week for my orientation, and it's a bit of a surreal feeling, that's for sure. Realizing how important of a job that it is, and I would still say I'm still in the adjustment. Coming over to the constituent's office every day and having like a 9 to 5 sort of hours instead of the agriculture life that I'm used to. So I would say no. I'm still trying to adapt, and I'm still trying to find where I can fit everything in.
I'm sure, and you'll probably by the time the House sits again, or which we'll get into, you probably know the exact amount of time it takes to get from here to Queen's Park.
Yeah, that's about it. And it isn't quick. When I came home there the other night, the traffic coming out of the city was tough enough, that's for sure. So, we don't really see the gridlock up here in Grey and Bruce counties, but there is gridlock, and it is real when you get down in the city, how much time you spend sitting in the vehicle, listening to the talk radio or the radio and sitting there wishing you could just get home a little quicker.
Indeed. I've actually found, and this is just my own personal observation, if I've ever had to go into downtown Toronto for meetings, I park at the airport and take the Up Express.
Yeah.
And it is so much. I kind of wave at those vehicles that are on their highways there, and they're locked in gridlock.
Yeah.
But it is fast. But you end up in Union Station as opposed to your destination in the downtown core.
No, and I don't disagree with you, David. That's the first time I drove down to downtown Toronto in a long time, and it's the parking part, eh? Like, parking costs so bloody much when you start staying at the airport for 4 or 5 days at a go. So I haven't got it all figured out yet, but we'll get something figured out sometime.
Oh, for sure. It's a whole new life for you, I'm sure.
Yes, oh, for sure. And I was exposed to it a certain amount with my OFA career. We did lobby down at Queen's Park, so I understand it a little bit, but it still takes a bit to get used to it when you're on the other side of the table.
Well, that's true. I mean, instead of being a lobbyist, you are the one being lobbied, or will be the one being lobbied, and
and I guess I'll find out which side of the table I really like, and I think I'll like the side making the decisions instead of being the lobbyist. So, looking forward to it.
Good. Now, just let's let people know your career in the past. You're obviously a farmer, third generation, I think.
So I'm actually, our ancestors, once they came over from England, we've always been farmers. But on the present farm I'm on right now, I'm actually the second generation, and my kids are the third generation. So my mom and dad bought the farm in '54. That's when they bought the farm, and we've had it ever since.
Has it always been a dairy farm?
More or less, yeah. Maybe a little bit more mixed farming when Dad first started. That's before supply management and quotas and the organization of the dairy industry. But now, since that time, it's been pretty well straight up dairy farming. And we do cash cropping. And I have nibbled in the beef business a little bit also. But our mainstay is the dairy farm.
And how many head are you running?
So we milked 62 head there, 62 cows there this morning. We'd have about at the high end would be 70 cows altogether, and then we'd have maybe 60 or so replacement heifers also on the farm. So I guess that comes out to somewhere around 130 head total. But the main numbers that how many cows you milk. We normally milk anywhere between 60 and 65.
It's interesting you say that. We'll get into this a little bit later, but one of the differences that supply management, I understand, has done to to farming in Canada versus farming in the U.S. is that most of our dairy farms are smaller operations, under 100 head of milkers, but the American farms are 200, 300, 400 head. They're massive.
Oh, yeah, and I would say they're in the thousands. We're at 100, they're at 1,000 sort of thing. And I think it's a better way of doing it. You include more families in the community. More families can live off the dairy industry, and I don't think that's a bad thing. To have it somewhat small and local, I think is what I think people like on the other side. There's a big movement of buying local right now, and really in a way we've been doing that the whole time with supply management in the dairy industry.
Well, just out of curiosity, because I'm somewhat familiar, but not entirely familiar. The milk that you take out of your cow gets put into a big tank, and the big tanker comes around every 2 or 3 days and takes the milk to where? Where does it go?
So it's every other day we get picked up, and it can go to. There's quite a few different plants. I don't know how many plants there are in the province, but my milk myself, a lot of it goes towards that 400 area. So there's a cheese plant just a little bit below Barrie. There's a Gailey Foods plant that either processes milk into fluid milk, a lot of cream, and then there's also another Gailey Foods plant that makes cottage cheese, sour cream, and yogurt. Just right there at Clayson and the 400, or I guess Clayson and the 401 area.
Uh-huh.
So that's where our milk goes to. If you get it further west of where I live, a lot of that milk goes into Teeswater, and then it gets further processed over there. I'm kind of the breaking point. So if you live west, it goes down to Gailey, Teeswater, and Guelph. If you're east, then it goes to the cheese plants that are along that 400 area.
So in theory, if I were to walk into my local grocery store and I saw cheese there, it's going to be Ontario milk, but it could be very local milk as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And if you go to dairy counter, I don't want to plug Gailey too much, but I do have a soft spot for them. All that sour cream and cottage cheese that you see on the shelf very well could be produced by my farm. So that's very true. The cheese plants are a little bit further away, I think. Yeah. So anyway, the sour cream and the cottage cheese, you can be guaranteed that there's milk pretty locally in it.
That's always interesting because in fact, I just did a show with Savannah Myers and the warden, and one of the things that we talked about was the Made in Gray initiative. So in theory, your cows could be stamped Made in Gray.
Oh, I think so. Yeah, I think that's a fair statement just to say, David.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which kind of leads me back to where we were when we kind of departed on the and followed the cows there for a moment. But you've had your first orientation. You have an office down in Queen's Park, don't you?
I guess sometime. I haven't been assigned an office quite yet. We don't quite know what everybody's role is going to be. So, but I assume there'll be an office down there. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So, and then you have your constituency office here, and are you using the same one as Rick used in Owen Sound?
Yep, here in Owen Sound. I don't know what the address is.
It's on 8th Street, is it not?
I think so.
Yeah, 8th Street.
Yeah, I don't know streets. I just know where to go, sort of thing. I'm bad for that. In my generation is where the Old Brothers Hotel was.
Oh, I was just going to say it's right across the street from the Harb.
Well, it's that too. But if anybody, I remember coming to this lot and walking into the doors of the brothers hotels. So
Yes.
anyway, anybody that's probably 40 years or younger probably doesn't remember Brothers. But anyway, I do.
Well, I've lived in Owen Sound 25 years, and I do remember Beach Brothers, which was the Brothers Hotel.
Yeah.
And so yes, I did. I remember. I remember when it was closed. I would not. I don't was never in it, but I remember when it was closed.
Yeah.
But the voice in my ear tells me it's 845 8th Street East, Suite 105. 345, sorry, Suite 345.
Okay.
And,
I'll have to
by the
remember
way,
that.
and by the way, you don't have to worry about it. For our viewers, the address is on the screen, and as well as the contact information. So that's that's one way we can let people know. It's also, as I said, the same place Rick Byers had his office.
Correct.
So,
Yeah. No, and I appreciate you guys putting up that information. It's important if people have got inquiries about provincial matters that they know where the office is, and if they need any help, I got a great staff here that is more than willing to help anybody out with any issues that they can be helped out with.
and is that the same staff as Rick had? Have you just carried over the staff?
I did. Yeah, I thought they were a great bunch of people. I added one more person, and Graham Taylor is my assistant, and yeah, we're looking forward to. I thought it was good to carry on some continuity. They know a lot of the files, and they can be as a great help. So I thought there was no reason to change staff. So I just carried on, and all the former staff have been rehired and will be here for the next 4 years.
Now, the other thing is contacting you directly. Email is probably the most efficient, but you can also make a phone call.
Yep.
And people can be in touch that way. What's important? One of the things I noticed is that in most of our politicians' emails, they make it very clear that they deal with constituents' matters first.
Correct. Yep.
So, is it important for people to include their address and phone number on their emails or letters?
No, most definitely. Yeah, most definitely. But your mailing address and a phone number where we can get back to you. We're not always able to answer all the calls as they come in, but I will guarantee you that those calls all get answered somewhere along the line.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know that I've had this conversation with your predecessor and his predecessor, as well as Alex Ruff and Larry Miller, that what is called constituency work is the flip side of what you do in Queen's Park. And while both are important, the constituency stuff is what we actually see the most of.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. People have issues that need to be looked after, and sometimes they need a little bit of help and guidance, and that's what this office is all about. And it's like you said, it's just as important as the work you do down at Queen's Park is the work that you do here in the riding, and also just being the kind of the ambassador, that the provincial ambassador to be out and around and to meet people. It's not always phone calls or emails, but when you meet people at a function, they can say hello, they can maybe give you a little bit of background information on something, and that's why I'm going to try and get out to as many of the events as I can. It's you can't be everywhere all the time, but I want to get out and see the people in the riding and to listen to their concerns and to try and help them out. I was at the Hunter and Anglers banquet there on Saturday night, and I went up to Chris afterwards. I said, if you have anything you need, I'm not saying I can get everything for you, but give me a call and see what I can do to help you. And maybe there's a grant or something like that that we can use to help further community events along.
Sure. Yes, I guess you must have discovered, as your predecessors have discovered, we live in a very large riding. It's a long way from Tobermory to Dundalk.
Yeah, and I'm tucked up in that northeast corner, so I have a long way to get over to Southampton or up to Tobermory or even down to Hanover. It seems like it's about an hour away. A lot of it, obviously, up to Tobermory, it's a little bit further, but we were up there a few times during the election, and I certainly enjoyed my time up there. It's a very laid back area and very friendly area up on the peninsula. So I've kind of been exposed to that area more than I've ever have been before. But I'm looking forward to going back up in the summertime too, and taking in some of the festivals and the events up there. I'm looking forward to it. As long down, the same with Hanover and everywhere in between.
Oh, of course, of course. It's a you'll probably discover, as I have, the back roads of West Grey, of Southgate, of Grey Highlands, and North Bruce Peninsula. That you'll be on roads you never thought existed.
Yeah, no, and it's good that you got Google Maps or Apple Maps to kind of to guide you along the way. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Good, good. Now, maybe I'm being premature, but I'll ask anyway. There is in the summer usually a barbecue that both the MPP and the MP sponsor. Any plans for that yet, or is it a little too soon?
A little too soon on that one, David.
Okay.
Yeah, hopefully, I'm sure there will be a barbecue somewhere along the line, but I certainly I don't have any of the details right now.
Good. Well, at least people can look forward to meeting you in the summer, which is often a very important time for politicians to get out and meet and greet people.
Yeah, hot dog and hamburger season, eh?
Absolutely, absolutely. And we grow excellent. We have excellent beef here in Grey County. So
Yeah, I completely agree with that one, and I do love a good hot dog myself. So I'm looking forward to it.
good, good. Now, you said that you'd been down for orientation, and I guess I see behind you. That's a picture of caucus that is behind you.
Yes, yeah, that's the 80 caucus, the PC caucus members. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's blue, so it's got to be PCs.
Yeah. So just as a bit of a side note, there's 17 new MPPs. So the class of 2025, there's 17, and we were all down there together for those couple days. So essentially, there's 10 PCs, 4 new Liberals, and 3 new NDPs.
Okay. Well, you did they give you it was probably like standing in front of a fire hose with the amount of information you had to absorb.
Yeah, yeah. And they really didn't even get into the meat and potatoes. It was just kind of the structure of Queen's Park and looking after your office and looking after your own kind of business. There was a lot to try and catch up on very quickly.
And forms to sign, I'm sure.
Yeah. So, and to be honest, my swearing in isn't until a week from today. Actually, is when I'll be officially sworn in down at Queen's Park. So yeah, the family and I and my and the people in the office are all going to come down and to Toronto to watch my swearing in, and looking forward to that day.
So that's the 21st of March.
Yes, the cabinet will be sworn in on the 19th, but I'm not in cabinet, so my swearing in ceremony is on the 21st.
Oh, you're not in cabinet. Okay, that's a scoop. That's a scoop. Now we know.
I don't think it's much of a scoop, David. I don't think many people really thought that I was ever going to get a cabinet spot. And honestly, I'm young, not young, but young down at Queen's Park, and I've got a lot to learn. So those positions are all very important. We need good people in cabinet, and we need good people steering the ship.
Yes, and the parliamentary secretaries or the head of chain, committee membership is just as important sometimes as being in cabinet. While cabinet makes very critical and important decisions, legislation can be steered by those who are around, particularly chairs of committees.
Yeah, no, I would agree. The networking that has to take place down at Queen's Park is huge, and I'm looking forward to that. I'm a bit of a social person. I like getting involved, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think people underestimate the amount of networking that is involved. I know that both Rick and Bill both said the ability to go over and talk to someone about an issue on the opposite side of the house, just to say, hey, this is an important issue for me. What is it for you? get the temperature or raise an issue that may be of common concern is critical, is just as important as what we see in question period.
Yeah, and really, David, it's all about moving the needle. It's not about the one-liners and the remarks you can poke and jab back and forth. It's about actually getting something done, because nobody wants it just to be a bit of a rough house down there. People want to see things get passed. They want to see the province to continue to improve, and the only way to do it is through cooperation.
Well, let's go back a little bit in time, and because you were a part of one of the shortest political campaigns in Ontario history, and did you actually get out, and were you able to do door to door knocking?
It's a pretty good estimate, around somewhere between 4,500 and 5,000 doors that we knocked on. We usually had there's always four of us that would go out, and we would start canvassing different areas, and we made it to pretty well every larger center. We didn't quite make it into all the small villages by any means, but there wasn't an urban center that we missed. And it was good. It was cold, but it's important to get out and meet the people in the riding, to kind of get a barometer. You can't do that just by sitting behind a screen and doing videos and doing the social media part of it. You actually got to get boots on the ground and to get out there and meet people and get the feel of what's important to everybody.
Well, let me ask you, what did you hear when you went door to door?
So I would say it was split, David. Anybody that was retired and maybe up in years a little bit, healthcare was their burning issue. But people that were still working and that went to work every day, they were more concerned about the tariffs as much as anything. Like it was on the news 24/7 about Trump and the tariffs. And it had people concerned, and people's jobs are on the line over these tariffs. So rightfully so. If you were at that age that you had a job that would be affected or could be potentially affected by a spinoff, that was what was important to you. Healthcare is important to everybody, but the tariffs and job security was more important, obviously, to the younger set of people.
One of the issues, and I've had this conversation with Rick Byers as well, actually Bill Walker. It's a perennial issue, of course, is healthcare. And we've had some hospital closures here in the riding, and got some people, let's say, wound up about it.
Yeah, and rightfully so, right?
Yeah. What are the plans that are you aware of any plans that the government has for either adding services or changing services in places where there are no longer hospitals or may not be hospitals in the future?
So there's quite a few different things that are going on. First of all, in the last term, Markhill Hospital was finished and was open. It's a great facility that can serve the center to the southern part of Grey County. Some of the other things that have gone on is allowing pharmacists to prescribe certain medications for certain ailments. Obviously they can't do it for everybody, but if there's people with a cold or a sore throat, if a pharmacist can look after that, quite often that'll keep the people out of the ERs, and the ERs can be busy and can be crowded. Takes up a lot of resources, and it's not always really an ER sort of an ailment. It's not like a broken bone or some kind of more major ailment. It could just be a simple cold that people just need to be told to take some antihistamines and to get some rest, and that helps keeping the people out of the ER system. So some of the other things that the government has done in the last term has introduced learn and stay programs. So this program is a great program. You can apply in Georgian College here in Owen Sound, and if you agree that you'll stay in an underutilized area, which this is a underutilized area, you can get your tuition and books paid for to get a nursing degree or a PSW. And even PSWs are able to then to work their way up with more education to become an RN. And these programs are going to make a difference. They're already this spring, I think, will be the first class that has had a group of people go through them. It's been the 2 years to get to that level, and then next spring will be when the first class that has tried to get up to the registered nurse level. They'll be graduating. So next spring, this spring there'll be 30 new graduates, and next spring there'll be 60 new graduates coming out of Georgian College. And having that program at Georgian College really allows people that want to stay in the area. Maybe they have kids, they have family. They don't want to travel down to Southern Ontario to get an education. And they're able to do that right here in Georgian College and still be able to go home at night, be with their families, and don't have to find a place to live somewhere else. They can live here at home. At the end, those people are quite committed to the area, and chances are they're going to stay in the area. So I think it's an excellent program, and hopefully we're going to start seeing some results of more nurses in place. That was the issue down in the Durham area, was that they didn't have enough nurses to staff the hospital. And this, I think this is going to be a big game changer. The other thing is, if I can just a couple more minutes on this, is we're opening up more doctor schools. That if people want to more spots, that if people want to become doctors, they have the ability to take that schooling here in Ontario. And that first program is going to start, I believe, either this fall or the following fall. And of course, it takes 7 years to be a doctor. It's not you aren't going to see the results right away, but at least we're heading in the right direction. Those are just a couple of the things that this government's been doing to try and improve the level of care for all the people in Ontario. It's not going to change overnight. This problem crept up on us over many years, and COVID really accelerated it at one point. But it's not going to be fixed overnight. Nobody can all of a sudden create 4,500 more doctors or a couple thousand more nurses tomorrow. There's no magic wand on this one, David, and we just got to keep putting good programs together that increase the ability and to get the education to get into the nursing and the healthcare profession.
Well, it will be certainly interesting to see. I know that there is great anxiety in West Grey, where I happen to work, but yes, it's a slow process, but it's an ongoing process, and I'm quite sure you will be at that first graduation,
Yeah,
cheering them on.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's a good idea. I don't know that we're thinking about that or not, David, but that is a good idea. I should make a point of making sure I'm there.
Yes. Well, I'm quite sure that the graduates will be pleased, especially when they know that they don't have to go out of town for a job. It's right here in Grey.
That's right.
Or Bruce.
Yeah, Grey and Bruce both. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
now, one of the other things that has been encouraged by the government is the increasing use of nurse practitioners. And will we be seeing more NPs in the province in this area?
I would think so. As those people get their education and it's more accepted. We also have the health units that are starting to develop, and that's where you have a combination of doctors, physio and nurse practitioners can all set up in the same building, and they can all work together as a team. And this is another way that people that don't have a doctor right now, this is how we're hoping to be able to get more people that don't have to show up at the ERs to get that's the only place they can go for medical care. So these health centers are important, and we're hoping to open up these health centers every year. That's a line in the budget that there is to promote these units.
Okay, well, Paul, we're going to take a quick break because hey, somebody wants to talk to us, and my audience. So we'll take a break and be back very shortly. I'm David Shearman. This is Politically Speaking.
This program is brought to you by Rogers Xfinity, connecting you to more of what you love. Visit Rogers.com for more details. This is Rogers TV.
For me, the end was just the beginning. I felt I must come. If I did not come at once, it would be too late. And these places that are watered with the best blood of Canada might only be names and memories. I see it in the soldiers, the grief I know so intimately. And I will not abandon these men to it. The isolation wears on me. Slowly, the silence takes over, as if my heart has given out of air. I cannot talk. I can only paint.
For more than 2 years, Mary Ryder Hamilton painted the battlefields of the First World War, creating an unforgettable visual record of service and sacrifices at immense personal cost.
Hi, I'm Lynn from Third Eye View, and welcome to a brand new season that we're looking forward to. We have some return guests and some brand new guests. And in the meantime, enjoy the rest of your summer, stay safe.
Hi, and welcome back to Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. My guest is Paul Vickers, who is the MPP for Bruce-Grey-Owen Sound. And Paul, it's a pleasure to have you today. Now, I have to say something. You are the first politician in a long time whose introduction I haven't messed up.
Oh,
Good karma. Good karma.
Yeah, here's to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I wanted to come back a little bit to farming as a kind of an intro to the next big topic. As a dairy farmer, you farm under supply management. That's how the dairy business is run in Canada. It's been run that way for several decades, I think.
Since 1966, I do believe.
My golly, I just realized that 1967 was the last time the Maple Leafs won the Stanley Cup. So it's older than the Maple Leafs winning the Stanley Cup.
Oh, you're hurting me, David. I'm a big Leafs fan, and I wasn't happy the way the game went last night. So you're hurting me hard here now.
Well, all's fair in love, war, and hockey.
Yeah, that's right. That's
All
right.
right,
One of these years, right?
One of these years. One of these years. But don't plan the parade quite yet.
No, I don't think so. I've got sucked into that idea many times before. So back when Wendell Clark and Doug Gilmour were playing, and then even when Matt Sundin and what was the other guy? Gary Roberts, I think, was the other kind of mainstay of the Leafs team. So.
Oh yes, those were the good old days. Mind you, I was born in Quebec, so the Les Canadiens are in my DNA. So, I can't change it, so I just go with it.
Yeah, well, and I feel badly for you.
Well, I guess we're even then. We're even. But let's come back to supply management, because let's tease that out a little bit. What is supply management?
So basically, supply management is basically where we want to look after our own market here in Canada. So it goes back to what we're exactly in right now with the buy local and being patriotic to what's produced in Canada. Supply management is that to a T. It's kind of interesting to see how there's a lot of pressure on supply management right now, but basically that's what we're doing. We're buying Canadian. When you buy milk and chicken and eggs, they're all under supply management, and that's basically what you're doing. We're allowing the production to happen here in Ontario and Canada, and for it to be consumed here in Ontario and Canada.
And you, as a farmer, have a quota which you've purchased, I understand, to allow you to sell X number of liters of milk into the market. Is that right?
Yep, that's correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And if you go over your quota,
then basically you don't get paid for it. So
okay.
if you ship over your allotment, you don't receive payment for that allotment. So it's in your best interest to stay within your limits, within your assigned quotas.
Now, another question that has certainly in my mind, what's the difference between milk in the US and milk in Canada? I mean, cows are cows.
Yeah, and I would say probably not a big difference. It's probably where they're produced. So up here in Canada, it's a lot more smaller farmers. Farms under 100 cows. They usually, a couple of generations or two siblings can run those farms. You get down in the States, and if you aren't milking 1,000 cows or 5,000 cows, you probably aren't making it happen. The margins are razor thin. And then, quite often it's immigration, not immigration, but the workers from Mexico that are working on your farm. So I think that's the biggest difference. As much as anything, it's really you're supporting the family unit as opposed to more of a corporate structure down in the States.
Now, I have thought I heard somewhere where American milk is allowed allowed to put antibiotics into milk, but you can't do that in Canada. Is that true?
Oh, I think that's a rumor, David.
Okay.
I'm 100% sure that milk would be antibiotic free down in the States, the same as what it is up here.
Oh, I know that you can only put vitamin A and vitamin D into Canadian milk, and that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's good. It's good to hear that because with these tariffs that are going on and supply management, which has been an ongoing conversation point, let's say, with respect to trade with the U.S., it's good to have a good understanding of it. So it's basically two different approaches to supply to providing fluid milk and chicken and eggs.
Yeah, but let's not forget about our beef and pork producers or the greenhouse producers. They're big parts in the agriculture industry and big parts in the agriculture industry up here. I had a phone call with the chair of the board of the pork producers there yesterday, and there was 3 days that the tariffs went on the pork that was going across, and it was coming out to tariffs that $7,500 for a load of hogs was the tariff amount, and that payment was directly getting pushed back to the Canadian farmer, and I questioned because I thought tariffs were imposed by the country, and the country that imposed them would pay them. But she says no, that the bills are coming back to the Canadian and Ontario farmers. So it's a big deal. And Tara said they can't survive those kind of losses for very long. And they need help. They need the way the border works presently is a good solution. They want Canadian hogs and Canadian beef down there, and we don't have all the processing that we need that to process that pork and beef into cuts that you and I can eat out of the supermarket. So it's really important and it's concerning for the agriculture industry up in this area.
Can we go back a moment to what the pork producers said, that there is an additional cost to the Canadian farmer for hogs that go into the U.S.?
Yeah, that's what she said. The tariff had to be paid at the border, and that bill was coming back to the Ontario farmer at that point. And again, it's so up in the air. Nobody really knows how this is all going to shake out. But those are real dollars. Like people's livelihoods and farms are on the line. If these tariffs continue or start back up here on April 2nd, it could have a real devastating effect on Canadian and Ontario agriculture. We just don't have the capacity to process all those live animals into cuts of meat.
It's Paul. It's something doesn't add up, because I do know a little bit about economics, and tariffs are normally paid by the receiving country or who's ever ordered the product. So I find it very odd that all of a sudden Canadian farmers are paying a tariff to the properly, I think, should be paid by the their American customers.
And I guess they get down to the border, and it's such, it's so disorganized right now.
Mhm.
They get down to the border, and the border, the people down there are saying, look, this has to be paid before this truck can go across the border. And I guess the packer that's receiving those animals, they aren't willing to pay it. So either the farmer from up here in Ontario has to pay it, or the truck has to turn around and go somewhere else.
Okay, that makes sense because then the farmer can then build a packer in the U.S. for that $7,500, who will then pay it. But then it becomes a cash flow issue.
Well, cash flow, and I'm not too sure whether the Packers too willing to pay it, even though it's their tariff. Right now, there doesn't seem to be an organization that's willing to cough up the money, because I think it's whoever is kind of like a game of chicken. Whoever has the bigger the stake into it, they're the ones that are going to get caught, because they're the ones the animals are on the truck. They're at the border.
Yeah.
They can't really come back to the farm. Like it's a production cycle. The Ontario farmer really doesn't have much else to do with them until they can find more processing capacity up here in Ontario. And there is, hopefully we can start looking into that and increasing the processing capacity up here in Ontario, so we aren't so reliant on everything that goes down to the States. It's really been out of convenience as much as anything. And I don't think it matters whether it's pork or beef or oil or car parts or anything else. They say, well, we should do more business within Canada or away from the States. But it's been such a stable market for so long, and it's been such a convenient market for us to go north, south, and more than east, west.
And it's a hard thing to change. It doesn't turn on a dime. It's not a pivot. If I understand, for example, the packing industry, it's going to take a year or two if you need a new packing plant. It's going to take a year or two to just get it, get it planned, built, and in production. Maybe 3 years.
Yeah,
it's not going to happen overnight.
No, and the animals, they're here, they're alive, and they have nowhere to go. So that becomes the problem. So much of what we produce in agriculture is perishable. I guess once you get the hides off them, if you can find the freezers to put them in, then you can store them. But when they're standing, the cycle keeps going on, and it's been built that there can be no kind of hiccups or backups, during the process, because they still eat, and there's still cost going into them. So that becomes a bit of the issue. I know with skiers, once they get to a certain stage, they need to go, and you can keep feeding them, but then your feed efficiencies go down, and the dollars get tight, and it just doesn't work that well for the producer up here.
And dare I say, the manure keeps piling up.
That's right.
So it's not just what goes in; it's what comes out.
Yeah, that's correct.
And that's true of any of the meat, of either chicken or pork or beef or
turkeys. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It sounds like, from what you're telling me, we got a bigger mess on our hands than we think.
Oh, and it affects our area up here. And we have some manufacturing that gets exported to the States, but it's our agriculture produce that's up here right now. That's where the biggest threat is for Grey and Bruce counties, for sure. It's agriculture as much as anything.
Sure. Now, where do you expect? Well, it's kind of hard to say, but Premier Ford has said, the temperature has been lowered, is the way he framed it yesterday. And so, are you optimistic that there will be some kind of solution?
Yeah, I think you have to be optimistic, David, because if you're not, it just spirals you down. So, having a strong leader like Doug Ford, he's been our guy to go down there. Unfortunately, some of the other federal politicians, aren't available. They have their own races they're in right now. But Doug Ford's been the guy for Ontario, and it's been important for him to take a lead. Because if he hadn't taken the lead, I'm not too sure who was going to take that lead.
Very true. Very true. The other thing to remember for us too is Premier Ford, I guess, used a pretty heavy club last week, saying that there will be a tariff on electricity, which is sent into the U.S. And then all of a sudden, Mr. Trump blinked, and Mr. Ford said, "Okay, we're going to take that off." Um,
And it's
but
not a tariff.
he's quite willing to cut electricity to three states.
And it's a surcharge
Mhm.
on the electricity. So when they get the bill, it's not like a tariff. It's a surcharge. So their rates will go up. If they want the electricity, I guess they can say no. If that's what the price is going to be, we don't want your electricity. They can find it for somewhere else. But it's a surcharge that they will have to pay when the electricity goes across the border. So it's people can agree or disagree with with us doing it that way, but it just seemed like we were getting nowhere until we pushed back in a way that was going to hit them and hit them hard. There didn't seem like there was any hesitation to do whatever what Donald Trump thought he wanted to do that day. So I think it's good. You have to push back. You just can't take it all the time.
Mhm. Mhm. Have you been given any idea what the legislative schedule will be, aside from obviously your swearing in? When will the House come back? When will there be a throne? So there obviously will be a throne speech. And what about a budget?
Yep. April 14th, I don't know anything for sure, David. And this is where I'm, lacking a little bit of experience, but there will be a throne speech after April 14th, and there will be a budget. The budget does have to come down. So the fiscal year of the province of Ontario started April 1st. And so any present day spending can continue, but any new spending has to come through a budget and it has to be go through Queen's Park.
Well, those are things that we should perhaps watch for.
Yeah, I think people are starting to realize that we need to pay attention, and these things are, everything just happened automatically before, but now people realize that these are the processes and the steps that have to take place, and I think we're starting to get a good wake up call on how our political systems work up here in Canada.
Hmm. And it's interesting. One of the things that this show does, I've tried over the last few years, is to make it very clear that there are certain things that the federal government is responsible for, certain things that the province is responsible for, and certain things that municipalities are responsible for, and they don't cross lines. They are very, very clear definition of responsibilities.
And sometimes they work in tandem, but
Yes.
they do have to work together. But yeah, everybody has their own spot and their own lane to stay in, and there's no use of trying to blame somebody else for what the lane we're in, and making sure that it keeps going ahead.
Yes, and it's very easy in politics or as electors to start to blame and play the blame game. Well, it's so and so's responsibility, or it's that person's responsibility. And it doesn't matter which level you're at. You're all tarred with the same brush.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, what changes or what differences do you see between municipal politics and provincial politics, if any, yet?
Yeah. Obviously scale is a bigger scale. When I was in the municipality of Meaford, we had a $25 million budget. For the province of Ontario, I think the budget's somewhere around 220 billion, $230 billion. So obviously there's scale. And then you talk about the responsibilities. Some of the biggest things that the province looks after is health and education. And health, education, and social programs take up 70% of the Ontario budget. Health alone take up 85 billion of that $220 billion budget. These are big items, and the money that's left over after that is what we have to use to help grow our province, grow our economy, and make things better for the people of Ontario.
Yes, indeed, and it'll be an ongoing struggle because we don't know what the impact of what's happening south of the border will be, and it's going to take some interesting navigation.
Yeah. And when we start talking about a recession and negative growth, you start realizing, you start taking that money out of the GDP of the province, how that affects people needing more services and needing more help from the province, and the same time as the province taking in less income because people aren't working, people aren't paying income taxes. These are all big issues, and has a big effect on how we can operate as a province.
Yeah. Now
there's only one taxpayer. Sorry about that, David.
Yeah.
There's only one taxpayer, and if they don't have the ability to pay the tax, we don't have the ability to collect it, and it just it goes downhill from there. So there's no magic wands, and there's nothing that we can do magical. We just gotta take what the situation we're in and make the best of it.
Well, you've just come through an election campaign, and who knows? By the time this show airs, that there may be another election campaign in the offing.
Yeah.
And but are you going to stay in your lane and just keep your nose to the grindstone at Queen's Park, or you think there'll be crossing into the federal election race by the provincial members and party?
If I could help Alex out in his campaign, I might do a bit of door knocking. But yeah, like it's his game, it's his election. But I don't mind. We hold a lot of the same values between the Conservative Party and Progressive Conservative. Not all the values line up, but some do. So I wouldn't say I would rule out not helping them in 1 or 2 days on the campaign trail and doing a little bit of door knocking with them. So.
Well, I'm hypothesizing here because we don't, as we're sitting here, we have no idea what the future will hold, but it appears there's going to be an election at some point in the next month or two. So we'll just have to wait and see because, how shall I say it? It's kind of like the weather in politics right now is like the weather in Grey County. Just turn around and it changes.
Yeah, that's right. Wait 5 minutes and wait for the wind to get out of the northeast, and then you know how cold it is, sort of thing.
Exactly. Or it comes out of the northwest, and you're going to get snow.
Yep, across the lake, eh?
Across the lake. Oh, it's a wild time to be in Canada. That's for sure. For so many ways, for so many reasons.
And not just Canada, but in the world. Like it's true. What's happening down the States has ramifications over in Europe and in other places also. So it's just a tough time to be around. That's for sure.
Well, that's another interesting question because as a farmer, you're familiar with the domestic market and the continental market. Do you foresee a day when we will be marketing our products to Europe?
It already happens. A lot of our corn and soybeans, when they get down to Hamilton, get on boats, a lot of that product is designated for over in Europe. So Europe's a big market for us already, not as big as the States, but for some commodities, it's where our products go. So agriculture is a worldwide product and worldwide industry. So you always have to keep track and know what's going on all around the world.
You think the price of fertilizer is going to play a role here too?
Well, they talk about potash down in coming down from Canada. Canada is one of the biggest potash exporters and have like their potash isn't manufactured. You mine it out of the ground and that's where it is. So we have some of the biggest reserves of potash. So it's an important issue. And are the farmers down there willing to pay 25% more because of this tariff? I'm not too sure. Nitrogen is manufactured basically from natural gas is how it is made. It's not mined out of the ground. It is kind of more of a chemical based product. So these are all important things to remember. Agriculture and the production of food is a global commodity and a global issue.
It's always good to hear a politician who knows this kind of has this depth in subject matter because most of us have some idea of what the impact of this trade war is on our world. But it's nice to hear some of these things that we hear, that I certainly have heard recently in the larger media, confirmed by you. I mean, let's face it, you're a subject expert. You may be a member of provincial parliament, but you're in that way, as a farmer, you know your stuff.
Well, and I do, and I'm certainly happy that I've had this opportunity, or have this opportunity to tell the story about agriculture, to make sure people understand how important food is. I heard a comment once, and it was a friend over in Bruce County. He told me people have 100 different problems until they're hungry, and then they have one problem. So I thought that was a good saying, and it's very relevant. Think back when the early days of COVID, how there was shortages of certain supplies, and how panicked people felt. That's not a good thing. So it's always important to have a good supply of food, and people with full bellies are more content. And China and Russia know this very well. If they don't keep their people fed, usually that turns into a bit of a revolt somewhere along the line. So,
Well, we'll have to wait and see what happens.
A fed person's a happy person.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
And look at Ukraine. When the war broke out there, Ukraine's a big supplier of food and of products, and how much of a disruptor that became. And we're kind of settling that back down here now, and the markets are showing that. The markets have came back quite a bit in the last 2 years from the highs of 2022 and 2023.
Well, it's really helpful to hear this kind of comment from someone who knows their stuff.
Yeah. The price of beans back then were $18 to $19 a bushel, and right now they're, I think, about 13 and a quarter a bushel. So this is quite a drop, and those drops relate to the farm gate prices and the income of the agriculture community. We don't have that extra dollars to spend out in the community.
Right. And you can't buy a new big green machine every 2 or 3 years either.
No, that's right. And if these tariffs keep going, will those tractors get 25% more expensive overnight? And technology is expensive. They're big dollars we're talking about, and it's a concern. Steel. There's a lot of steel used in agriculture, and a lot of petroleum, to produce the food. So, I don't want to sound like a doomsdayer, or I don't want to get people all worked up about it, but it's a concern, and most people that are in the agriculture industry realizes the pressures and the stressors on the production of food.
Well, Paul, we are out of time, but I want to thank you for both the informative conversation and the enlightenment about what's going to happen in the next few months at Queen's Park. I look forward to our next conversation. There will be a federal election somewhere before our next conversation, so who knows what we will be talking about.
Agriculture is a big deal, but there's a lot of other issues in the province also that I want to make sure I can help people out with.
Absolutely. And thank you, friends, for being a part of Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. We'll talk again.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
Hi, I'm Carol Merton, host of We All Belong, Our Neighbors, Our Community, a new Rogers TV series promoting the diversity of our community in Grey County. Please join me on Rogers TV.
Hi, I'm Ian Boddy, Mayor of the City of Owen Sound. Whether it's improving our parks, fixing roads, or planning our future for the city, it impacts all of us. Please tune in on Monday nights at 5:30 to Rogers TV or owensound.ca to become informed. Your support and your knowledge and your feedback is important to us, and having the knowledge of what's going on is really important and the first step.
You're watching Rogers TV.